Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Today, we're asking which loyal Primarch will be the first to fall during the Scouring. No real need for a spoiler warning today, as we're just speculating on future lore, but I will be referencing a few things from across the Warhammer 40k universe that we already know of, so you have been warned. But with that said, let's waste no time and just jump straight in. Now, the Horus Heresy is over and the Scouring series is upon the horizon, and we know it is a time of radical change for the Imperium, becoming the paranoid, xenophobic, extreme empire of the Grim Dark. However, it would also pivotally see the loyal Primarchs disappear, fall into the darkness of myth and legend. Perhaps the only thing that could have prevented the Imperium's slide into stagnation. And well, I wanted to ask today which of the Primarchs will be the first to fall, to leave the Imperium behind. What clues do we already have out there that may point the way? And well, we do actually have a few. First of all, within Leman Russ's Primarch novel The Great Wolf, we see the Wolf King during the Scouring years, retelling the tale of his fight against the lion upon Julan. And after finishing the story, he remarks, "I curse that I know not when the lion truly died," he muttered. "The tidings reach me now, but I do not believe them. He was never at the council when Guilliman and Dorn argued over the shape of the Imperium. We were told he was fighting in the Scouring, and why should we not have trusted that? If he had been there, perhaps he would have resisted the change, for he was ever proud of his legion, as he had every right to be." Russ shook his head, and the shaggy locks, once blonde, now grey, fell about him. He returned to Caliban after the siege, and that was the last anyone heard of him. Now if this gets retconned, I am going to be so unhappy. It fits and works so brilliantly not having Al Johnson aware, and part of the decisions made by Guilliman. But he is on the cover of Ashes of the Imperium, where Rogal and Guilliman appear to be arguing, but hopefully it's a later council that Russ is referring to here. However, regardless, here we see Russ confirming the lion is gone, and quite possibly pretty early on in the Scouring years, as I've always felt. According to Russ, he headed straight to Caliban after Terra, and was never seen again. Now, we also actually have been able to witness a Primarch's end in the Scouring already, with Roboute Guilliman, at the hands of Fulgrim, which took place in the first Dark Imperium novel. And there, as Guilliman falls after having his throat slashed by Fulgrim's poisoned blade, his panicking thoughts turn to his remaining brothers. "They mourn me already," he realised. "I am dead. I cannot die now. Not now. There is too much to do. Too much. Too much. What will Russ do without me? Or the Khan? Too much. Too much." Now, Guilliman could be reflecting on those two Primarchs in particular, as they are the more unpredictable, wilder Primarchs of the remaining few, but it could also simply be as they are the only two who are left. I've always felt the Primarch disappearances will largely all transpire alongside each other, in pretty quick succession, before they're even really aware of all their other brothers' fates, hearing the news that they are gone. However, either way, I'd say this is good evidence for Russ and the Khan to outlive Guilliman, and arguably a sign that they were indeed the last three remaining. Which leaves Vulkan, Corax, Rogal and L. Johnson, with Russ's testimony leaving L. Johnson as the likely candidate for the first to fall. However, there is one intriguing possibility that is not the Lion. And we know this from the Lion's own words too, or his thoughts to be exact, as within his novel The Lion, Son of the Forest, in learning of the current state of the galaxy from his newly found son Zabriel, Zabriel informs his Primarch that all of his loyal Primarch brothers are gone, and we get this moment as the Lion's reaction. The Lion's hands curl into fists without conscious thought, and he grits his teeth. He remembers the misery he felt when he learned of Ferris's death, and Corax's, and Sanguinius's. Is it better to be told of all his remaining brothers' deaths in one go, rather than seeing them fall or fade one by one? So, the Gorgon, the Raven Lord and the Angel. Two of course dead during the Heresy, Ferris and Sanguinius, but not Corax. Now, the Lion's thoughts here could be referring to Corax's believed death on Istvan. However, the problem with that is, it doesn't really make sense. Why would he be referring to Corax's death when he knows he didn't die then? And we also know for a fact L. Johnson does know that Corax indeed survived, because he actually met him face to face later on during the Heresy, upon the Raven Lord's own homeworld of Deliverance, which takes place during L. Johnson's campaign of vengeance against the traitor homeworlds. There, L. Johnson arrives at Deliverance at the head of his mighty fleet, where it's revealed that Corax has taken Russ and the remaining Space Wolves to help them recuperate and recover from their losses at their nigh-on destruction. And Leman joins the Lion on his campaign. However, Corax doesn't, sending a force of veterans to assist him instead. The Raven Lord unsure if L. Johnson's actions are the right move to make. And personally, I don't like this meeting, as it immediately retcons Russ and L. Johnson's later argument upon Terra, where Russ lets L. Johnson stab him in his grief to drain out their bad blood, because it's heavily implied there that they hadn't seen each other since Julian. However, now with this meeting, that isn't the case, so it just feels a little odd. Draining out bad blood when they've just fought an entire campaign together. However, the fact is, the meeting did transpire, and it is inarguable that L. Johnson knows Corax is not dead during the Heresy, meaning he must have found out the Raven Lord had died after this meeting upon Deliverance, making it possibly the earliest Primarch disappearance in the Scouring series to come. Which actually works with the cover of the Ashes of the Imperium novel that we've seen already, as the Raven Lord is ominously the only Primarch not clearly present. We know the Raven Lord will depart for the Eye of Terror alone, leaving his sons behind. It makes no sense for him to wait decades or centuries to do so, so a quicker departure is logical. And so, could it actually be the Raven Lord who is the first loyal Primarch lost in the upcoming Scouring series, with word reaching Terra of his departure before even the other Primarchs leave the throne world? Maybe the Lion will learn the news then. Maybe it will be during his return to Caliban. Either way, there are definite clues pointing towards the Raven Lord. But as always everyone, what do you think? Which of the loyal Primarchs do you think we are going to see fall first during the Scouring? Do you agree that it could indeed be the Ravenlord? And in fact the clues are fairly strong in his direction. Could it maybe be El Johnson, who we know should return to Caliban very quickly indeed? Or could we even see another of the loyal Primarchs we haven't mentioned today? Maybe a Vulkan or a Rogal Dorn? As always everyone, leave your thoughts in the comments below. A huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too? But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.